Welcome back to another Pokemon TCG tabletop video. I'm playing Regidrago once again, but this time I got to League, and the owner of the store, Yudong, let me know that Prismatic Evolutions was actually legal for this tournament, and I had no idea. So a bunch of my opponents today are going to have Budews, which I was not at all ready for, but that's okay. We are going to play Regidrago anyways. And getting into this first round, we're up against Reed, and Reed goes ahead and even starts the Budew, kind of letting us know that this tournament is going to be a different situation. We're going to have to deal with a bunch of these Budews, but it looks like he didn't get down any Dreepies. Of course, there's a Duskull and an Alakazam here, so I wasn't 100% sure what Reed was playing, but I think the Alakazam let me know that this is a Dragapult deck. Of course, if it was just the Duskull, maybe I'm still considering Charizard, but I think this Alakazam card really only belongs in a Dragapult deck. Now, as I'm doing my opening deck search, I'm kind of thinking about how I need to adapt my strategy in order to account for this Budew, because this Budew is going to turn off, it's going to turn off a lot of cards. One, it's going to turn off Energy Switch, right? So if I don't have energies on a Regidrago and I get hit by the Budew attack, well, I won't be attacking on the next turn. Two, it's going to turn off my Switch and Prime Catcher, meaning Reed is going to have a lot of stalling opportunities. And three, if I ever use Kyurem, Budew's really gonna cause me a lot of problems, right? Say I use Kyurem, I kill all of Reed's Pokemon, and then he just goes Budew, Iono, and then I have no energies on my Drago in the active. I can't play Switch, I can't play Prime Catcher, I can't play Energy Switch. So at this point, I'm pretty much thinking that Kyurem is gonna be like completely dead until the end of the game. So I'm hoping not to attack with this Kyurem. Of course, for now, it is the only attacker I have, so I might be forced to do some Kyureming, but I'm really not happy about the situation. I might just have to, like, at some point Kyurem the Budew and hopefully not get Budewed. But, like, Reed could always just Night Stretcher. We did get to Prime Catcher up this Radiant Alakazam on turn 1, which we're feeling pretty good about, mostly just because it has a large retreat cost, right, to retreat, and could be annoying for Reed to get out of the active, so maybe that buys us some time. Maybe the strategy versus Budew is to set up 2 Regidragos at once. That way we don't get randomly Budew locked out of the game. But I think my most likely strategy here is just going to be never to use Kyurem. I think I'm going to rely on Phantom Dive a lot. I'm even debating a Dragon Laser here. From what I remember, my hand is like a little bit awkward. I got like a bunch of Ultra Balls. And for a second, I think that I have to like use Dragon Laser here. And like I can't make a V-Star because I don't actually have any good attackers in the discard. But then I realized that with all these Ultra Balls in hand, I can actually just Ultra Ball for Dragapult and Ultra Ball it away. It took me like a really long time to figure this out, so I guess I'm a little bit asleep here for whatever reason, but eventually I do figure out that I can just Ultra Ball for the Dragapult and then Ultra Ball it away, and I believe the last card in my hand is a supporter, either an Iono. Yeah, it's an Iono. I'm just going to go ahead and play that, draw some more cards. Now, this turn we're going to Phantom Dive, and we're not at any risk of being knocked out, so you can catch a glimpse of that Nest Ball at the top of my hand, which I'm actually just going to go ahead and not play. It's impossible for our Regidrago to be knocked out here. I wouldn't want to like Nest Ball for a second Regidrago and then have Reed countercatcher it and trap it in the active. And then use Budew, right? Because then I couldn't E-switch, I couldn't switch, I couldn't prime. And it would just buy Reed a lot of time to set up. And I think I want to keep applying pressure here. He seems to be having a slow start. Didn't have any Dreepies on turn 1, so don't want to give him that opportunity to prime catcher. Maybe next turn I'll put down a Regidrago V once my V-Star is under a little bit of a threat, and then put some energies on it, maybe get some E-switching going on, and then we'll develop our board more next turn. But looks like Reed just having another slow turn. He let me know here that, he let me know after the game that if he didn't prize his Sparkling Crystal, I believe he said he had an attack here. So a little unfortunate for Reed to have prized his Sparkling Crystal. Means he's just going to have to settle for a TM Evolution. And it also just means his energies are going to be really awkward for the whole game, right? Because if he attaches an energy to a Dracloak here and I kill it, that's really bad. Additionally, like if he has to use the energy to TM Evolution here, then he won't have an energy on a Dreepy to attack on the next turn. So without the Crispin here, Reed's attacking options are really quite limited. And yep, we're just going to see the TM Evolution with the Budew after rare candying out the Dragapult. Now, like I mentioned, his crystal's prized, so because he's putting the energy on the Budew here, it means he's not going to be able to use Phantom Dive next turn, and so it's going to be a while before Reed actually gets attacking. He evolves the Duskull into Dusclops, which I think is a great call. Otherwise, I would definitely just be Phantom Diving that Duskull. It's the only thing that really threatens my V-Star here. For example, I could just go like Phantom Dive, Dusclops plus Dreepy here, and then in that case, I wouldn't have to bench another Regidrago V because, well, my Regidrago V-Star would be immortal. Reed would be capped at 200 damage with the Phantom Dive. But now, it's a little more scary. Reed's got, he could Dusknoir me and then kill me with the Dragapult. So I'm a little concerned, but I still don't really want to put down another Drago V and get it stalled out in the active. I could actually imagine a situation where like I bench a Drago V here and then it just gets Bedewed and I somehow end up like decking out or like almost decking out. A lot of my energies are kind of in play, so really, really awkward with this Budew card. I think Drago might have to play like a Surfer maybe, switch and draw cards until you have 5, or like a Turo, or maybe a Latiasiax. I'm not really sure, but I definitely feel like the mobility needs some work. Maybe you just cut the switch for a Surfer. That way you can switch around under Budew lock, or maybe just a Poppy. That seems good too. I end up deciding to just go for the Kyurem here. My logic was that I just go down to 1 prize here. I potentially get Bedewed, but I knew I had enough energies in the deck. I think I had like 3 grass, 1 fire left at this point. So as long as I can just attach the 3 energies over the course of 3 turns, eventually I'll be able to attack again. The second Reed uses an attack that isn't Budew, I should be able to just take my last prize card with Ogerpon, even if it like knocks out my Regidrago V-Star. So I felt somewhat comfortable with this. I also felt like maybe Reed just wouldn't Budew me. He had one of his Budews was in the discard. He discarded a Night Stretcher, but he's actually playing 2 Budew, and he kind of gets me here. So now my Drago is sort of stranded here. I attach Pass, and from what I remember, I don't have like all the energies in my hand, right? So it's going to take me much more than 3 turns to actually get these energies. Additionally, I can't play Earthen Vessel, I can't play Nest Ball, I can't use Pheasantipede, I can't use Mew EX because I got all these items stuck in my hand. My Ionos would only draw me 1 card, so I really just have to use like energies and research to draw into energies. So definitely feeling pretty stuck here, but he's only doing 10 damage, so I'm pretty content to just sit here. I draw a Pass, just looking to top deck a Grass Energy. It's a good thing for me that Reed doesn't play any way to accelerate this damage, right? Something like a Defiance Band would be a little scary, or like, I don't know, I think that would really be it. Like, you can't really play Monkey Dory in this deck. He's got no damage on his board to be healing off, so really just lucky that there's no Defiance Band. At this point, I think I have like a Research in my hand, or maybe an Iono. I'm debating playing it. I'm debating flipping my V-Star, but I'm a little worried that if I flip my V-Star here to get back like Grass Energies is what I would be doing. Maybe I like somehow lose the game because my Drago gets knocked out, and then I'm out of all my resources. This way, as long as I don't V-Star, Reed can't attack because then I just V-Star and win the game. So he Ionos me, I draw a Research, and then I attach an energy. That's great for me, and Reed doesn't have another Iono, so I just go ahead, I attach, and I finally get that attack off. So a little bit of an awkward game. The Budew definitely putting in some work, making me think, but I think we navigated around it. We navigated around it quite well here, and Reed also had a pretty abysmal start, which definitely put a lot less pressure on me. Getting into our second round here, we're up against Pult Thorns this time, so people at Kansan loving these Dragapult decks. A little different though with the Iron Thorns. We're not going to be getting hit by the Budew in this one, at least we're pretty sure. I mean, I guess there could always still be a Budew, but I discount that possibility pretty quickly. I think at the table, I just like literally asked my opponent if he played Budew, and he said no. So that was a little bit of stress off my shoulders there. And we start off this game a little awkward. We have to squawk to really play the game here. And then we do end up finding a Regidrago, so that's nice. Squawkabilly, not too much of a liability in this matchup. We can afford to play this a little slower. We could definitely maybe get that Motivate in there if we need to get some energies in play. But we're just happy to get down a Regidrago and an energy on turn 1. And off to my opponent's turn, he's going to need a lot more than one Pokemon and one energy. Of course, this Thorns deck likes to play Precious Trolley on turn 1, right? Arven for like Trolley Evo is pretty staple for them. So pretty happy when we don't see our opponent go for the Arven TM Evo Trolley play. He's just going to have to use a Crispin, which is pretty weak, pretty slow, and definitely we're feeling like we're in a good spot here. They're just going to use this energy to get into the Iron Thorns, turn off our abilities, get rid of any potential of an Ogerpon, but that's okay. From what I remember, our hand was not particularly good. We had an Iono that we didn't really want to play, right? Our opponent's showing us that they don't have much going on, so no need to Iono, especially we had our attachment to Regidrago V. There's really not much else to do that turn, right? We can't use Ogerpon, we don't need more Dragos, so what would we really be playing Iono to draw? I don't really know, so just didn't play it. Now, on our next turn, we're hoping to do some kind of attack here. Lots of good options. Kyurem, not one of them. Of course, it would kill all the Dracloaks, but what are we going to do on the next turn, right? Like, we Kyurem, and then our opponent just has an Iron Thorns, right? We can't use any of our abilities. We'll have our Dragos stranded in the active, and it's just not a sustainable play. So instead here, I think I'm going to opt to go for the Dragapult. Just go ahead, Vessel away that E-Switch. We don't need that. We can just attach manually 3 times to our Drago V-Star, and then we're just going to Ultra Ball for the V-Star and get that Phantom Dive in. Now, this Phantom Dive was a little interesting. I debated putting 3 damage on the Thorns, right? That would set it up to be Phantom Dived on the next turn, but I thought pressuring the Dracloak was a lot more valuable, especially like my opponent had a 0-card hand. I think it's very possible he just like essentially draw passes, and then I just get to kill the Dracloak and win the game for free. So I like that potential. Of course, our opponent finds a supporter, so it's a little less good, but we've got that 4 damage on there. That's going to allow us to loss impact a potential Dragapult EX at some point. It also just like forces him to evolve it, right? And that reduces his draw power, which is very relevant. Additionally, we got that 10 damage on the Toedscruel. That's there for potential Kyurem ideas later on in the game, right? We could Kyurem like Toedscruel plus like 2 Dracloaks or something like that. And like I said, our opponent here forced to evolve into the Dragapult. We're pretty happy about that. Shut off their draw support. Now from here, our prize map is probably just going to be like kill Toedscruel, kill Thorns, and kill Dragapult. I literally do nothing here. I just go ahead and Phantom Dive. I'm pretty sure I like have playable cards in hand here, and I just like don't play them. I have like a Regidrago V. I don't know. I definitely have a Regidrago V. I remember that, but similar to our last game, I didn't want to bench Regidrago V and then have it Countercatcher stalled into the active, and then my opponent can catch up, right? Like bring in the Drago, hit it for 140 with Iron Thorns. I draw pass, and then he can like Phantom Dive and position himself back into the game. So just go ahead, don't bench anything. Again, our Regidrago V-Star cannot be knocked out, so no need to put down a 3 retreat Pokemon. It's probably one of the biggest downsides of Regidrago V and V-Star. It's just the 3 retreat cost. Pretty brutal. Now I take some damage from this Iron Thorns, so I decide I need to bench down this other Drago V. I believe I also top decked a Research for turn, so I'm just thinking about playing this Research. It does discard one of my Regidrago V-Stars, which I'm going to need on the next turn, so I debated just like holding the Regidrago V-Star in hand, but I figured getting an energy attachment here onto the Drago on the bench was pretty valuable. Additionally, we find the Pheasantipede. Of course, not very helpful right now, but what we're trying to do here is put our opponent in a situation where he's already forced to knock out this Regidrago V-Star, right? If he doesn't knock it out, I don't know, I can probably V-Star and win the game in like many different ways. So that has to die. And then when it dies, I have Mew, I have Fez. Even if I get Iono to 2, all I need to do is find a Regidrago V-Star and I should win the game. And so that's what we go ahead and do. We Phantom Dive, we take out the Toedscruel. That's going to open up our V-Star power, making this Regidrago V-Star pretty much a must kill. And so on the next turn, as long as we can find a V-Star, maybe an energy, we might need an Ogerpon. Funny enough, we've actually got to the spot in the game without an Ogerpon. So funny how these board states can play out like that sometimes. And at this point, our opponent plays a Crispin. As soon as he does that, we know we got the game locked up. We've got, I don't know, like 8 cards in hand. I'm sure there's a winning combination in there somewhere. Our opponent's just going to finish playing out his turn. And then we're going to go ahead and evolve into another V-Star. V-Star for whatever the missing pieces are. And we're going to loss impact this Dragapult and win the game. getting into round 3, we're up against a Ceruledge deck, and overall, I think that this Ceruledge matchup is really, really good. Plays very similarly to the Golden Go matchup, except they just don't draw as many cards, right? So, yes, they do basically infinite damage. They can one-shot our Regidragos. They're probably going to attack first, but I think even down 2, or honestly, even down 3 prizes, I think this matchup is pretty favorable here. If we go first, you get to like Halucha Phantom Dive, kill double Charcadet, just like the Golden Go matchup. So a lot of good things going for us. But our opponent over here is having a great turn 1. They got the Charcadets down, they got Squawk down, and they haven't even played a supporter yet. I believe they're playing like some kind of 4 Carmine build, so they're definitely going to be playing that Carmine. You see it in the top of their hand there. And already I think we're at maybe like 6 energies in the discard pile. So my opponent definitely putting on a lot of pressure. We're going to be looking to get that Cleffa out on turn 1, get that 1 prize Pokemon in the active, hopefully get some energies in play, some Dragos, etc. Now, I think in this matchup, I'm pretty content to use Squawkabilly, right? We just got to keep up with their tempo. The liability doesn't matter too much, and we actually see our opponent go for the Brilliant Blender, I think it's called. So I don't even know how many energies that is. What's that? I think 10 energies in the discard pile. So our Ogerpon definitely in danger here. Our Regidrago V is also in danger. We start off our turn with a Teal Dance. I probably should have played this Vessel first, but my hand is just like research and a bunch of junk. So I just kind of Teal Masked first. I just think it probably didn't matter. Now, something interesting here is the Pokestop. Now, of course, my start is pretty weak. I think my hand is like E-Switch, Prime Catcher, Research, plus like some junk maybe. So there's potentially a debate to like Pokestop here. If I hit Nest Ball, then I can get Cleffa, Prime Catcher, switch in the Cleffa, or I could like get Drago, E-Switch the energy. But I really just didn't want to use this Pokestop. I felt like this matchup was very positive, and one of the ways I could lose was just like Pokestop milling like several Ionos, maybe my Stadium Bump, right? Milling my Jamming Tower would really suck. Milling Drago V-Stars would really suck. Drago Vs, Energies, right? A lot of good cards in our deck, and most of them are recoverable, but I just didn't really feel the need to rip the Pokestop. Off this research, I don't find an energy attachment, which is kind of a bummer. And again, I debate ripping the Pokestop, right? If I find a Vessel, then I can get an energy attachment, but there's only 3 Vessels in my deck. I used one already, and I've got a pretty large deck, so I felt like the odds of me hitting a Vessel were pretty low, and they were definitely lower than the odds of me discarding something important, V-Stars, Energies, Bosses, like I mentioned already. So just go ahead, Ultra Ball for a second Drago V. Super Rod, we put back the V-Star and some energies, mostly just to draw an extra card off this Cleffa, but hey, those are good cards, so don't hate having those in the deck. Definitely wouldn't mind to draw into them off this Grasping Draw, and that's what we do. We just go for this Grasping Draw. Overall, pretty solid turn 1. I'd love to have had like a couple energies in play. At least one would have been really nice, just kind of relieves some pressure on us. It's going to be somewhat difficult for us to actually get a turn 2 attack off. Now, when I see my opponent Ultra Ball for this Ceruledge, he discards an energy, so his last card in hand, 100% an energy or a supporter. We're happy to see him attach the energy, right? That means he's not like playing something like a Carmine or a Research and drawing more cards. So we know our opponent's entire hand right now. It's Night Stretcher and I guess just the prize card there. So we're feeling pretty good here. Of course, on the top of my mind is just to not kill anything here, right? He's got the Pheasantipity on the board. His hand is very clearly dead. So I'm thinking my plan here is to use like literally anything other than Giratina. I'm thinking Dragon Laser is an option. I'm thinking, Goodra seems really ideal. Pult is of course actually prized in this game. So we can't use the Dragapult. That would probably be my number 1 choice here. Really what I'm thinking here is we could go like Dragon Laser, Ceruledge. Just mostly just care about getting some damage on the Ceruledge, and then we can go for some kind of double Kyurem line. So we could go like Dragon Laser 30 on Squawk, and then we just Kyurem twice, kill Ceruledge, Fez, Squawk, and take a 6 prize turn. We'll draw 6 cards off Iono the whole game. We'll never activate Fez, but we actually end up Pokestopping away double Drago V-Star energy. I'm pretty sure I was 1 Nest Ball away from pulling off the attack, and And now I'm in a really gross spot. I don't think I have a draw supporter in my hand. I've already used Pheasantipede, so I'm basically put in a spot where I can either V-Star, and I would have to V-Star for like Ogerpon plus like whatever card, I guess. Or I could just do something passive. Now, I don't actually have like a usable attacker in my discard. It's just Tina. And I felt like if I flip my V-Star to Tina the Ceruledge, like, yes, I take the lead in the prize trade, which is nice, but I felt like it was unsustainable, especially like I already used both my super odds. So that means like I couldn't recover Radzard. Like a potential line would be like we impact here, and then we like use Radzard twice with super odd maybe. I mean, like Radzard can't kill Ceruledge, so then we need like double boss as well. And we would need Rod to recover the Radzard. I have no rods, so I felt like V-starring here was just unsustainable. So I ended up making a bit of a passive play, just recovering the Cleffa, switching into it, and getting a couple energies down. Opponent's hand is dead, right? So surely won't be too bad for us. Our opponent just ends up killing the Cleffa, which is pretty much what we expected. And we go ahead and start off our turn with the flip the script, and we vessel away this Drago V. Now, I think I actually made a pretty large mistake here. I have an Ultra Ball in hand, and I definitely should have like Ultra Balled for Goodra and then vesseled away the Goodra just to get it in discard. That way I could have a better attack here. I wouldn't have to Dragon Laser. I could like Goodra something, but Dragon Laser, pretty serviceable attack. I think even with the Goodra, my plan here is pretty much to, I think I have the boss's orders in my hand, so I'm going to bring up the Palkia. I'm mostly just trying to like kind of stall it out in the active. Then we're going to go for the Dragon Laser. Our opponent is multiple energies shy of killing Regidrago V-Star. I think I said they have 10, so they're still at 10, meaning they're 3 energies short. We know their hand is pretty much dead. They've got a Night Stretcher. That's all we know. And so if we bring in this Palkia, we can Dragon Laser, and then we can set up the double Kyurem, right? We're going to go Kyurem onto the Palkia, Fez, and Squawk. You know, that's nice because the Palkia doesn't have Terra, so there's no chance of it like retreating to the bench and then being a nuisance later on. And that's what we end up doing. Our opponent here, pretty lucky. They actually managed to get a boss's orders either off the prizes or as their top deck for this turn, right? I mean, if they had one last turn, surely they would have used it. But so let's go ahead and Night Stretcher back the Palkia V-Star, and they just go ahead and boss something and flip the Star Portal. Now, I wonder here, it might have been better for me to boss stall that other Ceruledge. Then I'm forcing Fire Energy and boss instead of just forcing them to have the boss's orders. So I think a little bit of a miss there from me, and it really ends up costing me here when my opponent just uses the boss to take 2 prizes. Overall, I'm still feeling like fairly comfortable about my position. My opponent's hand is still presumably pretty weak, and they still can't kill Regidrago V-Star. They've got a bunch of energies trapped in play. So what I'm thinking now is that my opponent has, I believe that was 12 energies in the discard, or maybe even less, maybe more like 10. But the idea here is I'm going to try and boss stall something that isn't the Palkia V-Star, right? That way those water energies stay stuck in play. Ideally, we could play an Iono here, limit my opponent's hand down to 2, and then we go for the Kyurem. If we had Pult, that would make this like a lot easier. We could just go like Pult the Fez and like split damage between the Palkia and the Squawk, and then we could like Kyurem for 6 on the next turn. Or we could go for like Pult. I'm not sure if that actually works. I think it works with the Hawlucha. I'm not entirely sure on the math, but I remember in game, I felt like if my Pult wasn't prized, it would just make this situation so much easier. But instead, we have to go for the double Kyurem. And the kicker is that my Kyurem is actually buried in my deck. I go ahead and give my deck a count. There's 8 cards in my deck, so if I just rip my V-Star power here, I'm mostly likely to get Kyurem. As long as Kyurem wasn't the bottom card in my deck there, I probably would have lost on the spot if Kyurem was the last card in my deck, but it wasn't. We recovered double E-Switch, and the idea here is that we're just going to go for the double Kyurem because I wasn't able to like play an Iono or get the Kyurem in the discard without flipping my V-Star. I'm in a spot now where I can't Iono. I have to play this boss's orders because I had to recover it with the V-Star, but because I used my V-Star, I have to recover double E-Switch. Just an awkward spot overall. So I can't Iono here. I end up bossing in the Pheasantipede again. I boss in the wrong Pokemon. Like my opponent just retreats the Fez. That gets an energy in their discard pile for free. If I bossed in their other Ceruledge EX, they could have attached to attack, but the energy would be stuck on the Ceruledge, meaning they would actually have one less energy in their discard, and would make it less likely that our Drago is going to get knocked out here. My opponent ends up having Carmine, draws 5 cards, and he draws into the Pokestop, and at this point, he only needs 1 more fire energy to knock me out. He's only got 1 fire energy left in his entire deck, but our opponent is kind of the best and just rips it off the first card, and that's going to be it. He's going to knock us out, and he's going to let us know that was the only fire energy in his entire deck. So definitely a little bit tilting. I had 2 opportunities to win the game if I just played a little bit better. So a little bit of a lesson for me, and honestly pretty cool because I felt like I was drawing really, really bad this game, and I still should have won if I just played a little bit better. So that was an interesting round 3 for sure. Getting into round 4, we're up against another Ceruledge deck, so we've got an opportunity for some revenge here. This time, our opponent's rocking the Area 0 Underdepth and the Seeker Box as the ace spec, so a little bit of a different build from our last round opponent. Of course, last time he had the Brilliant Blender, so we're up against a little bit of a different build, maybe more Palkia focused is kind of what I was thinking. Maybe there's like a 2-2 Palkia line, maybe even a Terapagos, but like probably not, right? So our opponent starts off their turn, they go ahead, they get the Squawkabilly off the Nest Ball, the Stadium from the Seeker Box, and I believe they got Carmine as their supporter, so likely, yep, there it is. Just going to see the Carmine, discard their hand, draw 5. Already a decent amount of energies in their discard pile. Of course, not quite as good as the Brilliant Blender as far as energies in the discard go, but looks like our opponent's off to a good start regardless. They go ahead, Heavy Ball for a Charcadet, and I imagine they're just going to continue their turn here with the Squawkabilly. Looks like they're going to Nest Ball, get out the Greninja, and Vessel, a bunch of energies. Looks like they're having a super solid turn 1. The Greninja really is like the lifeline of this deck. Of course, it gets energies in the discard, boosting Ceruledge's attack, enabling Palkia V-Star's V-Star power, and then, of course, also drawing 2 cards. So really love to see that come down on turn 1. I imagine that's the main reason there's a Hisuian Heavy Ball in my opponent's deck, is to fish that Radiant Greninja out of the prizes. I've seen these Ceruledge decks prize the Radiant Greninja, and it definitely creates some way less explosive draws. So just going to see all the abilities get used. We saw the Squawkabilly, we saw the Carmine. Because of this Area 0, our opponent has a little more bench space to work with here, so we get to see the Ninja, the Squawk, the Fez, all these guys coming down, and still plenty of room for more Charcadets, Palkia V-Star. I imagine this Ultra Ball just going to go ahead and get the Palkia down. Makes a lot of sense to me. Palkia just a really efficient attacker in the early game, and off to me, I actually have like a really, really horrible hand here. I actually don't even bother prize checking. I'm a little tilted from last round, to be honest, and I'm kind of just ready to speed run this loss. So I don't want to do my 1.5-minute long prize check. So I Vessel, I get 2 energies. I bench both my Drago Vs, I attach, and I think I just go ahead and pass off the turn here. Oh, I got a boss's orders to bring in the Pheasantipede. Let's go. That should deny an attack. I guess our opponent could always retreat and then Star Portal, and it looks like that's what we're about to see. But I think in this spot, like, I could have a Regidrago V-Star in my hand, so my opponent should be at least a little bit concerned. Additionally, I could have like Pheasantipede in my hand. I technically could have like Nest Ball and I prize Squawkabilly. Like, I don't really think that makes a lot of sense. But I could definitely have Fez in my hand. I could definitely have Regidrago V-Star. So, of course, my opponent gonna play out their turn carefully, make sure that they develop their board as much as possible to shut me out of this game. Now, the one thing we do have going for us here is that we did start a 1-prizer. At least we didn't start with Regidrago V. That'd be way, way worse. And so we're gonna be able to buy a turn here. I think if we were able to top deck something on this turn, I mean, little spoiler, I don't have anything good in my hand. I don't have the Regidrago V-Star. I don't have the Pheasantipede, but I think if I were to top deck like a Research or something here, a Fez, whatever, even a Regidrago V-Star to just like flip my V-Star power and play the game, I'm feeling like I'm in a pretty good spot, right? I could like start trading 2-prize Pokemon, just go for like the Lost Impact maybe, and then go for like some kind of Radzard line, but little spoiler alert, we're not going to end up top decking anything. Our opponent goes for the Star Portal, and they're just going to go ahead and take this KO on the Iron Bundle. I send up the Regidrago V without an energy, expecting to honestly top deck nothing. The plan is fall behind another 2 prizes and then go for some kind of sick 6 prize comeback play. Not entirely sure on the specifics yet, but we'll figure it out when it happens. I have an energy to attach here. I also have another grass energy in my hand. And so I debate attaching to my Regidrago V on the bench just to make it a little more threatening. If my opponent uses boss to knock out my Ogre Pawn, then my hand is completely dead. So that would be really bad. But I felt like if I attached twice to one Drago and he just killed it, then I would probably lose anyways. I figured maybe my opponent here also wouldn't kill my Ogre Pawn. Like he might just kill my Regidrago V because it's a Regidrago and it attacks. So we go ahead, we split up the energies, and we go for the Celestial Roar, and we discard like the worst cards ever. I think it was like Prime Catcher, E-Switch, Super Odd. And as you can see here, my opponent's sitting on the boss. Also in game, like when my opponent is sitting here for this long, like thinking about something, I just know 100% he has boss's orders in hand. So I'm kind of just sitting here praying that he doesn't play the boss's orders, and I get to Teal Dance on the next turn, and that's what happens. So we love to see that. We go ahead, we draw for turn, and at this point, I think this is like the last turn where I can draw out of it and still win. And I believe I actually do draw out of it here. I Teal Dance into Research. That looks pretty good to me. And I actually, because I didn't prize check here, what I'm thinking is that I'm going to go for a Goodra. And then on the next, hopefully like force out the boss's orders, and then I can play Iono and maybe make some kind of cool comeback. I can continue to Goodra, right? But I actually prized the Goodra. So a little bit of a lesson for anyone watching in these games where you're completely dead drawing and you don't want to prize check because you think you're just going to lose immediately. It's still very important to prize check. So at a regional, I definitely would have done the full prize check. At the local league night, I was a little undisciplined and just was like, screw it. But of course, I get immediately punished. And now I have this Regidrago V in the active. And I can't protect it with Goodra. So at this point, I'm pretty committed to just trying to like loss impact this Palkia and then like trying to make some cool comeback play with Iono next turn. My opponent's on 3 prizes, so I don't really have any Radzard option, right? Like if I lost impact here and then we get knocked out, I can't like use Radzard. My opponent's on 1 prize, so I would need another Regidrago. So essentially what I'm playing for here is I need to loss impact this turn, and I need to bench another Regidrago V so that on the next turn I can have another V-Star, draw Goodra off the prizes, discard the Goodra, and then like Goodra the Fez for 200, and then take a 4 prize turn on the Squawk and the Fez to close out the game. So a lot needs to go right here, and when we Fezandipity and with E-Switch, with 4 E-Switches in our deck, it's definitely not going right, and so we flip our V-Star power. There are those E-Switches. Very, very nice of them to show up to the party. And we're going to be able to set up this Regidrago and loss impact. But at this point, I'm pretty much screwed. My opponent's got like 11 energies or something in the discard pile. And we need to recover this Regidrago V so that we have potential of Goodraing next turn. But I think I actually like need to recover double E-Switch here, or else I don't have enough E-Switches to even attack on the next turn. And so from here, I'm like pretty much completely cooked. Maybe I'll speed up the rest of this game, but from here, our opponent actually does a very, very good job of setting up like the most checkmate possible. He gets down the Iron Bundle and then just goes ahead and KOs our Regidrago V-Star, and then from there we're just forced to scoop it up. So a little bit of a brutal week against these Ceruledge decks. Seems like we just can't really catch a break, drawing pretty poorly, but I do think this matchup's pretty solid. So a little bit unfortunate here, and we'll be getting into round 5. In round 5, we run into a little bit of a forgotten archetype, the Palkia Bomb, of course. Palkia Dusknoir, there's the Greninja in there as well. And I do consider this to be a fairly good matchup. You know what? As my opponent's flicking through his deck, I actually didn't even see the Greninja there. So maybe not playing the Greninja. But either way here, we feel pretty good about this matchup. Starting Kyurem is not ideal, but it could be worse. There are matchups where starting Kyurem is nearly like an instant loss, like Gardevoir. In this matchup, it's really not so bad. We don't need to use Kyurem's attack. It is like a fat 1 prize Pokemon that's going to sit in the active and slow us down. And when we research away our switch, that's definitely not helping the situation either. But overall, feeling pretty good about the situation here. We've got, I know we've got at least a Regidrago V in hand here, so we should be able to play the game. It'll take a little while with my prize check here. I'm going to just skip until I'm done with that. I think part of the reason I took so long with the prize check is that in the last 2 rounds I didn't play my best, honestly, and so I'm trying to like calm myself down, focus up, and play a good game here. I didn't bench the Cleffa there. I felt like it was just going to be a liability, mostly clogging my bench. I'm not too worried about the Cleffa dying, but I think when I discard my switch, it's really, really unlikely that, I mean, I would need to draw Prime Catcher here to even get into the Cleffa. So I decided to just kind of give up on the Cleffa, kind of hope my opponent kills this Kyurem. And I'm just content to play some kind of waiting game where I'll just sit behind this Kyurem, attach some energy cards. Eventually, my opponent will have to either kill the Kyurem or play a Prime Catcher, maybe blow up a Dusknoir, use a Counter Catcher, something like that. But I'm pretty content to just play this game from behind. Just make sure that when my opponent finally does initiate, I have a response, right? I'll probably split my energies on my Regidragos and just chill. I mean, like if my opponent does absolutely nothing, eventually I'll draw my Prime Catcher and I'll take the initiative there, but that's pretty far away. My opponent's having somewhat of an awkward turn. I think this would be a great spot if they were playing Rotom V. I know that was in some of the old Palkia Dusknoir builds and one of my favorite inclusions in the deck, but we see a lot of these lists not playing the Rotom V. I think it'd be a nice way for him to just draw some cards while I kind of sit here with this Kyurem doing nothing. But we see him just go for the Dusknoir. He had the rare candy in hand, and when I put rare candies into the Dusknoir, I get a little bit excited thinking that he's just going to blow up the Dusknoir and kill my Kyurem, but he's a little smarter than that, doesn't go ahead and take the prize, and my hand is a little bit awkward. I believe I have an Iono in my hand, but seeing as my opponent isn't really doing anything, I didn't really see a need to play it, right? What am I really trying to do with this Iono? I already got my attachment for a turn. It's really unlikely that I'll draw a sequence of cards that lets me attack, right? It would need to be like Prime Catcher, E-Switch. Like, I'm not drawing that. So I decided to just chill here. Maybe my opponent will kind of take the bait, kill the Kyurem. I can play the Iono, get the Fez down, and kind of go crazy. But I don't think he ends up killing this Kyurem here. He's a little too smart. He goes ahead, just pops the Dusknoir onto the bench. He pops it onto the Ogre Pawn, which I think makes sense in the sense that, like, it's my only Ogre Pawn, but then I realize he's trying to go for a Greninja play onto this Ogre Pawn, right? You Dusknoir it, and then you can Star Portal and Greninja it. Except for the fact that Ogre Pawn has Terra. I think everybody has made this mistake once of trying to Greninja an Ogre Pawn or whatever other attack. So I think he probably should have just popped that damage onto one of the Dragos, and then he can either Greninja the Drago, or honestly, I think just like a Palkia attack into one of the Dragos would have been best, right? You like Dusknoir one of the Dragos, and then you counter catch the other one, just take the knockout there. So we'll see what my opponent ends up going for here. He brings up the Greninja, and I stop him. I let him know he can't Greninja the Ogre Pawn, and I say, take your time, come up with something else. You can retreat and do something else with the Star Portal. We're just playing a friendly League Night, so no need to make my opponent use the Star Portal onto the Greninja. And yeah, so he goes ahead, just Star Portals onto the Palkia V-Star, get some energies on the Palkia V on the bench. And I think at this point, something important to know is, like, in a game when you make a mistake like this, it's really easy to get flustered. And so I really recommend to you guys, if you ever are in a game like this, you make a mistake, take a second to calm down. You know, if you have to get up, go to the bathroom and like reset your mental, that's honestly not a bad idea. Or just like sit there at the table for like 30 seconds, just kind of collect yourself before making a decision, because I think my opponent makes a little follow-up mistake in using this Prime Catcher. I think he probably could have just killed the Squawkabilly, saved the Prime Catcher, and then you'll kind of see how that might have made his endgame a little bit easier. But so he goes ahead, uses the Prime Catcher, KOs my Ogre Pawn. A little bit awkward for me. That is my only Ogre Pawn, so I'll need another Ogre Pawn, Energy, and E-Switch if I want to get an attack off here. Of course, my hand was ready for this, right? I had the Fez, and my other card in hand is Iono. So feeling decent about the situation. I still don't want to play this Iono, right? I would have loved to Pheasantipity into a research. My opponent's shown that he has actually a pretty weak hand, so I would have loved the research there. I play Vessel and Ultra Ball. Now, this could have got me an Ogerpon down, but what I was really nervous about is like I Ultra Ball for Ogerpon here. I play Iono, I whiff Drago V-Star, and then my opponent just gets to kill my Regidrago V for free and go down to 2 prizes without any hassle. At least this way, when I whiff, which of course I do, I don't find the really anything. I was prepared to flip my V-Star here for an attack, but I don't find any of the pieces. I don't find Ogerpon, Grass Energy, or E-Switch, meaning that if I V-starred for the other, like I can't V-star and get the other 2 pieces here. But anyways, because I got the Ultra Ball for the Regidrago V-Star here, when I pass, my Regidrago V-Star can at least soak up an attack, right? So kind of preparing for the worst case scenario here. I know that my Regidrago deck can be a little clunky at times, so just being prepared for whiffing is always a good idea. My opponent ends up getting the Dusknoir and the Rare Candy, which, bad news for me, that's going to blow up my Regidrago V-Star. I think if I could have V-starred, I would have V-starred for like a Dragapult attack and Phantom Dive that Duskull off the board, and then that would have protected my Regidrago V-Star. I keep my energies, and that was really what I was going for here. But because we whiff, our Regidrago V-Star is going to be going down, and we find ourselves in another one of these comeback situations. We're down, what are we down here? I guess we're only down 2 prizes because of all the Dusknoirs being blown up. But the problem is my opponent's deck is getting very thin. So when my Regidrago V-Star gets knocked out here, I find myself in somewhat of a weird position where the Duskull is, of course, on the bench, so he could like evolve into Dusknoir and then use Palkia to blow up my Drago. The problem is, like, if I kill the Duskull, which I was considering, right, just like Phantom Dive the Duskull, well, then my opponent gets Mew and Fez, and all he needs is a boss's orders to close out the game. So I found myself in a strange spot, and I wasn't sure if it was better here to go for a Phantom Dive, right, KO the Duskull, force my opponent to have a boss's orders, or it could have been correct to bring up the Pheasantipity, right, hit it with Goodra. That way, we deny my opponent a lot of card draw. We force him to draw like Candy Dusknoir, or I guess Dusclops, and then a way to retreat. And I felt like because of how thin my opponent's deck was, in the moment, I thought it was less likely for them to find the Candy Dusknoir retreat than the boss's orders. But as I'm thinking back on it, I think it was probably the correct play to just like bring up the Pheasantipity here and Phantom Dive the Duskull, and then just go for the win on the next turn. But that's not what I end up going for. I start off with the Teal Dance, of course, the Super Rod. That's going to get me back to V-Star. With my V-Star power up, I should have absolutely no issues putting together this play. It's just going to be like, there's the V-Star, I got the Pult and the Goodra in the discard. I think with the Goodra attack, my opponent actually needs Candy Dusknoir, not just the Dusclops, so that's a little bonus there. So a little bit harder for him to actually get the winning combo. I also knew my opponent was down his Prime Catcher at this point, so I kind of mentioned that earlier, where like he used his Prime Catcher on turn 2 or turn 3 or whatever. So now in this spot, it has to be the boss's orders, which I think should make me want to kill the Duskull more. I think if he had Prime Catcher left, this play makes a bit more sense. But with just the boss, I think I'm supposed to just like, honestly, I could just like Phantom Dive, kill the Mew and the Duskull. That seems really good. Maybe I could have got the Halucha involved. I could have like Halucha'd the Fez here and then Phantom Dived the Fez and the Duskull, gone down to 1 prize. I could have used my V-Star to do it because I could just like put 2 damage counters on Greninja. Or no, I can't do that. Yeah, no, I can't do that. But I could have definitely gone for like a 3 prize Phantom Dive here, taking out my opponent's draw, taking out my opponent's Duskull, and I think that would have been much, much better. But I also get the Jamming Tower, which was nice. Get rid of that Pokestop. That was one of the missing pieces I was looking for. I was ready to flip my V-Star on like my 4-card deck or whatever to get that Jamming Tower and bump the Pokestop. I should have no problems closing out the game on the last turn, so that's definitely something I would have done if I whiffed that Jamming Tower. And then my opponent just piecing together the winning combo here. It's just Candy Dusknoir and an Energy, the Pokestop and the Irida. Definitely get him a long way there. Oh, and he actually does play the Greninja, so I guess I just didn't see that on his initial flick through the deck. He goes ahead, Iridas for the Rare Candy and the Froakie, and then goes for the Pokestop. I think I would have preferred to see him use the Pokestop first, Pokestop, kind of see what he gets off of it. And then after that, he can Irida for the missing piece, right? So say he like Pokestops into Rare Candy, well, then he can Irida for the Ultra Ball. Or say he Pokestops into Rare Candy and Ultra Ball, well, then maybe he gets the Night Stretcher so that he can retreat. At this point, my opponent was also out all of his energies, so he had to draw into the Night Stretcher here. He ends up finding it. He actually found it off that trekking shoe. Decides just to Mew for fun, I suppose, and then he goes ahead, retreats, blows up the Dusknoir on my Drago, and kills it with Palkia. So I think overall, I played this league pretty poorly. I mean, a lot of my like early turns were good, but my kind of end game stalling, setting up for my last kind of 4 prize plays were a little bit off. I don't think I found the best line really in any of my last 3 games. So good practice for me. And up next, I'll just be at San Antonio playing this deck. So if you see me, come say hi. Let me know if you watch my videos, if you enjoyed them, and if you end up playing Regidrago at San Antonio because of my videos, that'd be really cool to know. So other than that, I'll just see you guys in the next video.